Hello, Chillify. I'm ready. Have you ever heard of eating a female fetus? Legend has it that by consuming just one female fetus, a mother can give birth to a son. I am that boy, born after my mother ate a female fetus. Adults always say that children under 3 years old have no memories. But I remember very clearly how I was pulled from my mother's womb. I remember my naked body being slapped hard on the bottom to make me cry. I remember someone pulling my legs apart, looking closely between my thighs, and then erupting in overjoyed shouts. "It's a boy! It's a boy!" Then came the cheers of a whole crowd of people. The woman who bore me, my mother, lay in a pool of fresh red blood, her pale face breaking into a satisfied smile. And me, I just remember. I didn't understand. I didn't know what any of it represented. It wasn't until I gradually grew older, when the relentless teachings, gazes, and expectations surrounded me, that I understood those memories actually carried a horrific meaning. I had never told anyone that I remembered everything from before I was 3, because if I did, they wouldn't believe me. They would just laugh, rubbing my cheeks with their rough, dry hands, affectionately saying, "Yes, yes, everything you say is true. My son is truly the Van Cook star descended from heaven. What do you call them if not sister?" I once asked my village friend. My family had 2 older sisters. One around 13, the other 10. His family had even more, 4 or 5 sisters, but every one of them was bone thin, their faces ashen like mud, while he was fair-skinned, round and plump, as if he had sucked all the essence from his sisters to grow. I didn't understand why such strange thoughts always existed in my head. He was 2 or 3 years older than me, knew more things, and naturally treated me as his junior, chattering on endlessly. "Sister? No. Call them pigs, chickens, dogs, whatever you want. As long as it's not people, not sister." I stared blankly. He continued, "They're born to raise us. Do you know what raises means? Like the greens in the field, you have to water and fertilize them to make them grow. And those sisters, they are that pile of water fertilizer. Has your family's dog or cat ever been dirty?" I shook my head. I didn't understand what dirty meant. "It's blood," he replied. "When girls have blood, they're about to give birth. When they give birth, they're traded for food. With food, we can grow. When we grow up, we have to carry on the family life. It's a heavy burden, you know." I remembered the deepest moment in my memory, the day I was brought into this world in blood and tears. And suddenly, a silent spark of doubt flickered within me. Isn't giving birth a woman's job? Then why do people say carrying on the family line is a man's responsibility? The woman who shed so much blood to give birth to a tiny life that year, wasn't that my mother? And she wasn't a man. I once asked my eldest sister, "Sister, have you been dirty yet?" Eldest sister, a human being, her face dark and gaunt, to a pathetic degree, still managed to show a flush of red from embarrassment. Her voice trembled. "Not yet. Not yet. Not yet." I leaned in and whispered to her ear, like sharing a secret. "Sister, if you ever get dirty, don't let anyone know. Our next door said that If a girl gets dirty, she'll be traded for rice. Eldest sister was even more astonished, but what made her tremble didn't seem to be the fact that she herself would be traded for food, but my very words. Once, I repeated those words to another older sister. She smiled sadly. Little Bow, what are you saying? Aren't we born precisely to be exchanged for food? Hurry, bow your head. Mother is praying for your blessings. Every few years, my village held a grand and eerie ceremony. I didn't know what it meant, only that each time, a chosen woman was brought onto a high platform in the square, performing strange, solemn, and chilling movements amidst echoing chants. The adults called her the Divine Maiden, a person sacrificed to pray for favorable weather and abundant harvests. That time, I looked up. I clearly saw the Divine Maiden's eyes, cold and full of tears. My mother quickly pushed my head down, forcing me to prostrate myself, but I couldn't forget the question that burrowed deep into my heart. Is the Divine Maiden crying to pray for blessings? Don't people only cry when they are scared, humiliated, or in pain? I only cried when I was beaten, locked up, or made to kneel as punishment. That night, only women and girls were in the house. I asked my mother again, where's father? Where's grandfather? Where are my uncles? Mother paused, hesitated a little, but then hugged me and comforted me. They've gone to the Divine Maiden to ask for blessings. I didn't understand what blessings were, let alone how one asked for them. I asked again. This time, Mother didn't answer, just held me tighter than usual, as if afraid I would ask something I shouldn't. That night, in a daze, I heard the door open. Father returned, carrying the chill of late-night dew and an unnamed, strong, fishy smell. He crawled into bed. Mother whispered, "What did the Divine Maiden taste like?" Father chuckled, "Very good. The blessings have been obtained. Guaranteed. The next one will also be a son." After that night's ritual, I never saw the Divine Maiden again, but I really wanted to meet her. I wanted to ask, how do you pray for favorable weather? Is it really thanks to those tears? I searched and searched all over the village, but couldn't find any trace of the Divine Maiden. Out of desperation, I ran to my parents, making a fuss, crying and begging to see the Divine Maiden again. Mother tried to soothe me without success, finally saying helplessly, the Divine Maiden only descends to the mortal world for one day. Once her task is done, she returns to heaven. She'll come again next year. Furious, I pulled at Mother's dry, tangled hair. Do what? My business isn't finished. How can she leave? I want her back. The whole family was flustered, trying to calm me down. Actually, I didn't really want to see the Divine Maiden that much. I just wanted to cause trouble, to see their awkward, anxious, tired faces, because I knew they were all living around me. When I was 5, Mother became pregnant again. I often lay prone on Mother's belly, listening to the vague sounds coming from inside. Villagers teased me, asking, "Is it a little brother or a little sister in there?" I honestly shook my head. I don't know. Either is fine. Everyone burst out laughing. No, you have to say one. If you guess right, you get a chicken egg. I pouted. I don't need one. I have so many eggs at home. Unexpectedly, as soon as I finished speaking, they surrounded me with threats. If you don't say it, Mother won't bring you home today. We'll leave you alone on the mountain for the wolves to eat. I feared the mountain most. The mountain was gloomy. In the mountain were man-eating monsters rumored to particularly enjoy eating children. In my panic, I blurted out, "A little sister." As soon as the words left my mouth, the atmosphere around me instantly turned cold. My mother's face darkened, so black it looked like ink would drip from it. I still didn't understand what was happening, only that they finally let go, no longer threatening me. So I happily lay back down, pressing my face to Mother's belly, listening to the faint sounds like tiny drums tapping in the night. But today, Bao said it's a little sister. What should we do? Has the divine Maiden's blessing lost its effectiveness? That time, you were the... What number on the platform? Was there too little blessing attached? I dimly woke up. My pillow was empty, no one beside me, but from outside the window, I heard whispers in the deep night. I tiptoed out of bed, pressed my ear to the door, and eavesdropped. A low, hoarse male voice replied, "It's precisely because children's eyes are keen. What little Bao says is usually right. Perhaps I did get too little blessing. Tomorrow, we'll find someone to get rid of this fetus. And it won't be a waste either. We'll cook and eat it. Who knows? Maybe next time, it'll be a son." I didn't fully understand what they were saying, only felt sleepy. The sleepiness swallowed me like fog. I crawled back into bed, pulled the blanket up, and continued to sink into sleep, completely unaware that the darkness outside was slowly devouring a life that had yet to be born. The next day, I played outside until I was sweating profusely before finally returning home. As soon as I reached the door, I smelled something cooking inside. The strong, bloody smell mixed with the faint scent of fire, as if present and absent at the same time. I excitedly thought, "It must be meat. I get to eat meat today." I rushed towards the kitchen, but Mother suddenly appeared, quickly picked me up, and pulled me away from the kitchen door. I looked up at her and almost shrieked. Mother's face was terrifyingly pale, her eyes clouded and bulging abnormally from their sockets. Her face was covered in wrinkles, crisscrossing like the bark of an old tree in the front yard, rough and grayish. She held me tight against her, leaning on her bony, sharp shoulder. Her shoulder pressed into my face, and in that moment I smelled blood, the smell of human flesh, thick and clinging. Then I noticed something unusual. Mother's belly had flattened. I innocently asked, "Mother, where's your belly? Where did the baby in your tummy go?" That night, there was no meat feast for me, as I had imagined. There was only a bowl full of meat, but it wasn't for me. My mother squatted by the door, hugging the entire bowl and eating it. Beside her, my aunt was also silently chewing and swallowing each piece. I ran over, my eyes wide with anticipation, but they wouldn't let me touch it. I was furious, so furious. I pouted, refusing to eat anything on the table. No one could coax me. I wanted to use my childish anger to protest. Grandmother rushed after me, frantic. "Little Bao, eat something. You'll get hungry and disappear." I said, "I want to eat meat. Give me meat, and I'll eat." So, they had no choice but to kill another chicken. Killing a chicken was easier than making me eat that bowl of meat. Why? What kind of precious meat was it after all? When no one was looking, I secretly ran into the kitchen, rummaging everywhere. Finally, in a hidden corner, I found the pot. On the lid of the pot was a familiar bowl, the one my mother had just eaten from. I tiptoed, pulled a chair, and reached to open the lid of the pot. Whoosh! A wave of hot, foul-smelling steam burst out, so pungent it made me dizzy. Inside were lumps of meat mixed with bones, hastily cooked, fragmented, as if someone didn't want to leave any recognizable shape. I stared at the bowl. Amidst the thick, viscous liquid, a piece of skin floated, revealing small wrinkles like a newborn's forehead. My gaze and the reflection beneath the water met. Clang! The kitchen door burst open. The kitchen door burst open. In that moment, I didn't scream, didn't cry. I fainted, my eyes still open. This child is possessed by a demon. A deep, gruff male voice echoed, cold as if from a deep well. The fetus you just aborted was a girl, wasn't it? Girls are always an ill omen. Only boys are reincarnated immortal. To demons, boys are like Tang Sanzan's flesh, the purest and most delicious. How could you let him see such filth? So what should we do? I can't lose little Bao. Please, master, help us. Help us kill that filthy demon. All right. The two of you take the remaining meat to the mountain and feed it to the wolves. Don't leave a single piece. Let it die an incomplete death, without a soul. I will draw a talisman. That demon will never be able to take form again. Thank you, master. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I woke up. In my daze, I had a dream. I saw a newborn baby, its body torn to shreds, floating amidst a river of blood, still smiling at me. It asked, "Why are you still alive? Why are you the exception?" I didn't understand. I was scared. I tried to run away. Finally, I screamed in my dream and startled awake. The whole family huddled around, their eyes full of worry. My mother hugged me tightly and cried, a wail that broke from deep within her chest, hoarse as a knife scraping against my ears. I involuntarily began to overthink. I was just a little startled. Why was mother crying so tragically? Why didn't she shed a single tear when that baby died? Bao from next door came to ask me, "You've been sleeping in a daze for 2 days. Were you really scared by a ghost?" I shook my head. I don't know. It was true, I really didn't know. Not that I didn't want to tell. After waking up, I only knew that I had been so frightened I fainted. But what exactly frightened me, I couldn't remember. That whole segment of memory was blurry, like the thin porridge my mother used to cook. Lately, eldest sister seemed to have gained weight, but also seemed to have gotten thinner. I don't remember exactly when I noticed the change. Only that once I did, I often looked at her for a long time. I saw her bony hands were still the same. Her eyes were always full of fear and unease. Her lips cracked, her skin pale. But beneath her loose-fitting clothes, her belly was slightly protruding. I kept looking because that figure was so familiar, not like plump me with chubby cheeks and soft limbs you just wanted to pinch. Eldest sister resembled a gaunt skeleton temporarily covered with sun-darkened skin. And then another strange thought popped into my head, as it often did, startling me. I sat on a rock in the yard, silently watching my sister carry water. Before, she was strong, able to work all day without a frown. But now, just lifting the carrying pole onto her shoulder, I saw her gritting her teeth in endurance, sweat pouring like rain, her dark face turning pale. Taking one step, she breathed 3 times. I stared intently at her bulging belly. Just then, Mother came out, looking at eldest sister, who was panting. Mother snapped, "I've raised you for so many years just to eat free meals. You do such a small amount of work, and you're breathing like you're about to die. Do you think you're a young lady? What are you pretending for? You useless girl." Then she turned to me, her voice as gentle as water. I looked up at her, nodded. And in that moment, I suddenly understood why eldest sister's figure looked so familiar. Because she looked exactly like my mother when she was pregnant. But eldest sister hadn't married yet. Whose child is that in your belly? Speak! You have a say in this? You rotten girl, at such a young age. You can't stand loneliness? Can't live without a man? And you dare to let me see your pregnant belly? Everything was finally discovered. Eldest sister's condition could no longer be hidden. Her belly was visibly large, and she was wasting away day by day. I didn't know if the fetus in her belly was a baby. I saw it as a blood-sucking parasite. It sucked out all the flesh, sucked out her very soul. Because if not, why did both mother and eldest sister's bellies grow during pregnancy? Yet their entire bodies became thinner and thinner. Second sister and I were locked in a room, not allowed to go outside. Father, mother, and grandparents all told me children shouldn't see these things. I sat still, but my ears could still hear echoes from outside through the earth wall and thin wooden door cracks. I heard eldest sister screaming, each cry more painful, more feeble. I asked second sister, "Mother gave birth to a baby without being like this. So why is eldest sister in so much pain?" Second sister glared at me without speaking. She had never liked me much. In the past, I also rarely talked to her, but now there were only the 2 of us in the room. If I didn't talk to her, there was no one else to talk to. Are they hitting eldest sister? Why is mother allowed to have a baby, but eldest sister isn't? Quiet. Don't talk anymore. Second sister yelled, her eyes flashing with anger. I flinched, retreating backward. Just then, another scream echoed from outside the door. But this time, it didn't seem to be eldest sister. "You dare to push me? You ungrateful beast! I raised you all these years. Turns out it's worse than raising a dog. You piece of trash. No father, and you dare to act innocent. Bringing that wretched offspring into my house. Mother, please, grandmother, you all gave birth to. Please don't make me get rid of it. I'll do anything you want. Please, please, let me give birth to it. You still have the nerve to ask to give birth. How will people look at our whole family? Will this whole village still be able to live? Swallow it back down. Stuff a rag in her mouth. Don't let the neighbors hear. Otherwise, this whole family will lose face in the village. That night, mosquitoes bit me awake. Mother was no longer there to fan me. Only father was snoring like thunder. I was wide awake. And then, amidst father's snores, I heard whispers from the yard. I walked barefoot outside. Even her sister dares to pull such a stunt. Such a good girl. And she's ruined by him. Pregnant out of wedlock. Now she won't even sell for a good price. I was planning to trade her for food for little Bao. My son is at an age to eat and study, about to start village school. Everything costs money. Now, it's all ruined by that uneducated scoundrel. What could I do? I was about to interfere and got beaten. Was it easy for me? Mother, this isn't over yet. Since little Bao is our family's treasure, their family has to fully compensate us for their daughter. Enough, stop arguing. No one can steal what belongs to little Bao. To be frank, that girl has a small butt and flat chest. Not pretty either. At most, she'd only fetch a few chickens. Yet her husband is infatuated with her and humiliated her. Aren't you afraid of retribution? Shut your mouth. We've paid for the fetus to be yours. Based on what? Such a large sum, how can we live? Based on the fact that little Bao is a son, and she, a barren chicken, has no right to bargain. Silence fell. Then someone coldly said, "That girl is already dirty, and now she's pregnant. That fetus is a bastard, a burden. If raised, better off dead. Kill it, take it to the mountain, and dispose of it." Another voice spoke, even and emotionless. "If the money has been paid, then she belongs to us. I sold her to old Master Chen for a profit. He likes pregnant women. 7, 8 months pregnant. The fetal meat is tender, and it sells for a good price." "Who is old Master Chen?" I asked Bao, next door. He turned pale. It was the first time I'd seen him scared. "Why are you asking? Did you meet him?" I shook my head. "Is he that scary?" "Very scary." His voice trembled, not like he was joking. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, "My mother said he eats people." My eyes widened. A chill ran down my spine. Goosebumps covered my body. Bao continued, looking around anxiously. There was a lean year. Old Master Chen killed and ate his whole family. Ate his wife, children, parents. That's how he survived. After that, he got used to it and became addicted. He lives at the end of the village, in the biggest, most beautiful house, because the village chief is afraid. He gave him the house, just hoping he wouldn't eat the villagers. They say what he likes to eat most is women's flesh. But to eat flesh, he has to be happy first. My heart went cold. "Back home?" I asked. "Where's eldest sister?" My mother replied, her face expressionless. "She got married." I was surprised. "Married to whom?" Mother said, as if gliding through the air. "A good man in another village, not nearby. This year, drought struck. My 1 egg per day was now only 1 egg per week. Mother, grandmother, aunt too. Everyone looked visibly thinner. Their skin was stretched over bones, eyes sunken, their breathing as light as wind rustling through grass. What were they doing? Bao and I squatted in the yard, looking through the fence. Cries echoed throughout the village. Then I saw a group of adults carrying out bundles one by one. They were little girls. Each one, some sobbing, some screaming tragically, some completely emotionless, just staring blankly, some struggling like beached fish, but all were tightly bound, hands and feet unable to escape. Bao clearly saw the scene, then wearily pushed his hand off the fence. They're probably taking pigs to sell. Never mind them. Let's keep playing. I felt uneasy. Something twinged in my chest, like being swung on a swing made of sharp thorns, sometimes soaring high, sometimes plunging into an abyss. My mother said this year's drought is big, probably because the gods are displeased. We have to offer little girls to the gods to serve and please them. If the gods are happy, next year will bring a bountiful harvest. Bao grinned, revealing in his uneven teeth. A good harvest means you and I will have more eggs, nicer new clothes, and more spending money. My eyes lit up. Really? Have you seen the gods? What do they look like? Bao paused, frowning in thought. Never met them. I hesitated. Then why are those kids crying? Serving the gods is a very big deal. My mother even has to travel far to worship Buddha. Why are they crying if they're serving the gods every day? I remembered the divine Maiden from that year, sitting on the high platform amidst incense smoke and cold ritual. But her face was full of tears and terror. Bao, do you have to cry to meet the gods? I really want to meet the gods too. In the middle of the village was a high platform connected to an ancient myth. People said that long ago, a divine maiden descended to the mortal world. Seeing the villagers' poverty, she stayed to hell. Later, the goddess wished to return to heaven. So the villagers built a high platform, erected a jade pagoda, and sent her up to the clouds. I had heard that story since childhood. Li Zhao. It was what made me believe in deities, made me want to meet them. The platform was called high, but in reality, it was only 2 or 3 steps tall, with a pagoda built on top. The high part was just for show. It was the most sacred place in the village. Whenever there was a major event, people gathered there. That day, Mother held my hand tightly, leading me to the high platform. Below, adults had gathered densely. They bowed their heads, their faces ashen like dirt. In the crowd, I vaguely recognized some familiar faces. I also saw a cluster of little girls, bound at the edge of the pagoda. They no longer had the strength to cry, only a few disjointed sobs, their eyes darting wildly. I grasped Mother's hand. One of them looked directly at me. Her skin was so dark that the whites of her eyes stood out, shining with terrifying brightness. She was as thin as a dried skeleton, her face just a skull. She looked like a corpse. I was scared and quickly hid behind Mother. Is it starting now? What's starting, Mother? Mother didn't answer. Shini knelt down. I was about to follow suit. She pulled me up. No need. You don't need to kneel. I looked around. Grandmother, Aunt 2 second 3. were all kneeling. But father and my uncles stood. I didn't understand. I was about to ask when a piercing scream rang out. It was the little girls being dragged away. They screamed until their throats tore. I don't want to die. Mother, save me. I'll be good. I'll wash dishes and cook. Don't kill me. Mother, mother? I held mother's hand and asked, they don't look like they're going to meet the gods. They look more like they're going to die. Mother's face darkened. She whispered fiercely, be quiet. Don't say the word die. Tut. The strong men dragged the little ones up, ropes biting into their flesh. The muddy path behind them stretched out a red trail. I saw the little girls being thrown into the pagoda, the iron door clanging shut. I briefly saw flashes of fire, briefly heard screams, sounds of banging on the door, bones hitting the walls, cries of desperate, paralyzing despair. I stood far away, but I saw it as clearly as if I were inside the pagoda. I was also inside it, stepping on fire, stepping on human bodies, my hands glowing red, pounding on the iron door. My cries couldn't extinguish the fire. My companions were swallowed one by one in the sea of flame. My skin, my flesh, my bones disappeared. I melted. I was no longer human. I was ashes in the gods' crucible. Mother woke me up. She said I had been touched by something unlucky and had called a sorcerer to perform an exorcism. The sorcerer hit me a few times with a willow branch, hurting so much that I burst into tears, wailing for a whole afternoon. Mother and grandmother rushed to hug me, comforting and coaxing me, promising me everything in the world as long as I stopped crying. Why do they eat those things? I asked my neighbor Bob. That's right. I finally remembered. I remembered what I saw that day. I remembered what my mother and aunt ate. Strangely, I no longer felt scared. I clearly remembered the image of the baby girl that day, red and soft, cooked in the pot. But I no longer felt like fainting as before. I thought, it must be because I'm older now. I'm a boy. They eat it if they want to eat it. Little Bow, playing in the dirt, replied nonchalantly. I still didn't understand. What do they eat it for? Is there any benefit? Another little boy interjected, of course. To make mothers give birth to sons. I hesitated, but that little girl is a person too, just like us. As soon as the words left my mouth, the other children stopped what they were doing and looked at me with curiosity, as if I had just said something very strange. Oh, what did you just say? Who taught you that? I stammered, unable to answer. I didn't know why I had blurted out that sentence. Girls, they're not people. They're medicine. Medicine to help mothers give birth to sons. When they're small, they're medicine. When they grow up, they're pigs or dogs. How can they be people? Where did you get that idea? Did your pig tell you? I was trapped in a circle. Luckily, Mao pulled me out of the fight. I whispered to him, but mother and aunt too ate the medicine and still didn't give birth to a son. Bao scratched his head. Well, maybe you have to eat it many times for it to work. My family ate it repeatedly until only I was born. My grandmother said that during the old famine years, many people ate their own daughters and then gave birth to sons. This trick has been passed down from that time. Second sister was chosen to be the divine maiden. I heard the news after she had already been taken away. I frantically questioned mother and grandmother, badgering them until I got answers. Knowing my lifelong fascination with deities, they, though busy, held their temper and replied, "Second sister has been taken to the village chief's house to prepare for the ceremony. Will she meet a god?" I want to ask her so many things. No, my mother, who always indulged me the most, sternly cut me off. She's a divine maiden now. She can't be met casually. I started to throw a tantrum. I pulled mother's hair, cried and wailed, threatening to starve myself to death if they didn't let me see second sister. I cried so hard that grandfather, who never bothered with anything, had to come out. He held a pipe with a strong, unpleasant smell and yelled at mother and grandmother for not knowing how to raise a child. Mother and grandmother, who were always sharp-tongued, were as quiet as quails then. It was funny. He had never taught me a single thing. They still wouldn't let me go. That afternoon, they cooked me a meal even better than yesterday's. I pretended to be happy, ate it all up, then grabbed my sandals and ran outside saying, "I'm going to find Bao now, okay?" But I didn't go to find Bao. If they wouldn't let me go, I would go myself. I would go find second sister myself. I knew where the village chief's house was. I knew the way. The dog guarding the village chief's gate recognized me. It didn't bark, just wagged its tail happily. I pulled out a leftover chicken bone from my pocket, reluctantly sucked on it a little more, then threw it to the dog. It happily snatched it and gnawed greedily. Meanwhile, I brazenly walked into the village chief's yard. It was midday, and most of the adults were out in the fields. The village chief's house had 3 sections. I didn't know where second sister was, so I stealthily crept to the back, pressing my face against each window, tiptoeing to peer into each room. I came to a small room, so tiny I thought no one could be living there. I thought she's a divine maiden, right? Everyone respects a god so much. How can they lock her in this cramped room? But I heard a faint sound from inside, a gentle sobbing, very much like second sister's voice. The small room had no windows. I couldn't look in. I could only approach and gently tap on the wooden door. "Second sister," I called very softly. From inside, a voice, hoarse and murky like dry wind and sand blowing over a snake's corpse, echoed. "Who?" I froze, then stammered, "It's me, your little brother." Second sister had never shown me affection like eldest sister. Unlike eldest sister, who was always accommodating and gentle, second sister often chose to be beaten by mother and grandmother rather than give in to me about anything. After so many years, she became the person I feared most in the house, because I knew she would never give in to me. "What are you doing here? Come to make fun of me. Get out." I flinched, instinctively about to turn and run, afraid she would suddenly open the door, grab me, drag me in, and beat me. But I only ran a few steps. I stopped, then turned back and stood before that door once more. I knew she was crying. I remembered the divine maiden that year also cried. Those tears were deeply etched in my memory. I had always wondered if all divine maidens cried to pray for our blessings. Could it truly be? I asked, asking what I had hidden in my heart for so long. "Second sister, Do divine maidens really pray for blessings with their tears? The room fell silent. I thought she wouldn't answer. I thought she would scold me, or even open the door and hit me. But then she spoke. If you open the door, I'll tell you. I looked at the wooden door. What is she doing that she can't even open the door herself? I tried pushing. Only a wooden bar blocked it. Blocked, as if the person inside had no strength left to escape. I removed the wooden bar, and the door sprang open. I saw no altar, no incense, no Buddha statues, no ceremonial lamps. There was only a thin girl, her hair disheveled, tightly bound until her body was twisted. It was second sister. Her eyes looked at me with resentment, as if I were the one who had locked her in there. Second sister, you're a divine maiden. Why are you tied up like this? She burst out laughing, a bitter laugh. Her eyes, her laughter seemed to crush the title of divine maiden in her mouth. But she didn't scold me as usual. Her voice softened. Little Bao, come help me untie these ropes. Are you trying to escape? As soon as the words left my mouth, the atmosphere in the room instantly froze. I saw the light in her eyes flicker out like a lamp running out of oil. We were silent for a long time. Finally, I said, Second sister, if you want to escape, I'll help you. She looked up, unable to believe it. I walked over, knelt beside her, and began to untie each tangled knot. I didn't notice her eyes, astonished, moved, and mixed with fear, because in that moment I suddenly thought that the divine maiden's tears might not be for praying for blessings, but the only thing they could keep for themselves. Jayu, you're not like the people here. The soft sound of the ropes being untied. That was also when I heard second sister whisper that sentence. In her voice was a mix of doubt, as if she didn't understand why I was different from the others in the village, despite growing up here too. But actually, I also didn't understand why second sister, after escaping, was caught and brought back. Mother and grandmother went insane, beating her with all their strength. Their mouths spewed out all sorts of filthy words, cursing without restraint. I knew why. They had already received money. If second sister was gone, the money would also be gone. They took their anger out entirely on her. I rushed in, crying and wailing, pounding my chest as I cried. I'm hungry. I want to eat meat. I want to eat eggs. That's when they stopped, coaxing me as usual, carrying me back home. I lay on mother's shoulder, my tears not yet dry, turning to look at second sister being dragged away like a dead fish, eyes open, lying sprawled. The distance between me and her kept widening until I couldn't see her anymore. On the day of the blessing ceremony, I looked up again. This time, it was second sister standing on the platform. She wasn't crying. But there was no longer any emotion in her eyes. Those eyes seemed to have run dry of tears a very long time ago. That night, after the ritual, father, grandfather, and my uncles were all out. I seized the opportunity while mother and grandmother were busy cooking to sneak outside. It was very dark. Only the cold moonlight illuminated the bumpy dirt path. I ran straight to the village chief's house, hiding behind a tree, then behind a wall, crawling into a ditch of grass. I saw one man walk out, then another, then another. I squeezed through a dog hole, pushed open a door, and climbed into the house. I peeked through a window. I saw a room packed with men, and in the middle of the room, second sister, completely naked. I recognized faces, including my father's and my grandfather's. I ran. I didn't think about anything else. Just ran, without purpose, without a destination. The wind howled past my ears, scraping my face raw. In my head, second sister screams echoed from that room, resounding with each step I took endlessly. I heard men's voices, scornful laughter, jokes like something from hell. My legs went weak. I stepped on a rock, tumbled onto the roadside, rolling to a place I didn't know. It was too dark. I couldn't see anything. I crawled up, both scared and panicked, glancing around, then continued to run, as if a demon was chasing me from behind. I screamed, "Mother! Grandmother!" I crawled and rolled, not knowing where I had run to. It was still dark. I still couldn't see anything. I fell again. This time, the pain made me burst into tears. My hands were bleeding, my cheeks raw, probably scraped. I didn't dare to cry loudly. I was afraid the wild beasts on the mountain would hear me. But I wanted to cry very loudly, because I looked down and saw a tiny corpse. It was so small that at first I thought it was a dead animal, but looking closely it looked more human. As soon as that thought flashed, I screamed, backing away sharply. Crash! Ding-a! Something behind me collapsed. I froze, slowly turning my head. I saw a small hut that had just fallen, and behind it were many other huts. When I ran here, I hadn't seen them. They were like the pagoda in the middle of the village. Suddenly, memories that didn't belong to me flooded my mind. Voices I had never heard, images I had never seen, like parasites finding a host, desperately trying to burrow in and cling to my soul. That year, if the fortune teller hadn't said you were destined to bear a son, I would never have kept you. You should be grateful to your little brother. He saved your rotten life. If it weren't for him, you would have been drowned in the river long ago. What do you have to live for now? I raised you, sent you to school for so many years, gave you clothes to wear. What have you done for this family now, you ungrateful dog? Those voices, those images, swirled deep in my head, making me recoil repeatedly, wanting to shake my head hard to drive them away. I saw a girl as thin as eldest sister, second sister, as fragile and timid as any woman in my village. Mother, please have mercy on me. What did you say? Please don't kill me. I've kept your useless life for too long. Now your little brother is at an age to eat and grow. He needs to eat more than you. You're dark-skinned and thin as a stick. You won't sell for much. The village chief offered me 5 eggs. Letting you serve the gods is a blessing for you. What does a girl like you have to complain about, mother? The girl screamed as if her heart and lungs were tearing. Mother, you're sending me to my death. You know it, and you're still sending me. You're a girl. Girls are born to die for men. What else is there to live for? I don't want to die. I saw the girl kneeling, begging for her life. I saw the girl wailing before her mother, the one who bore her, raised her, and now pushed her into the flames. I saw the fire consuming her body. I saw the despair, the pain, the tragic screams, and the absolute helplessness. That was me. That was my past life. I was once a little girl burned in the sacrificial pagoda, burned to the bone, turned to ash. Before I died, I prayed, in my next life, please let me be a boy. That prayer was accepted. I was reborn as the most cherished boy in the family, no longer eaten, no longer sacrificed alive, no longer called a dog or medicine. I was educated, fed, given privileges that in my previous life I could only dream of. If I closed my eyes and ignored it, I would forever be the most precious child in the family, living a privileged life at the cost of other girls. But if I intervened, I could die. And if I died, what if I was reborn as a girl again? I just needed to pretend I didn't know. But I knew. No one knew better than I did. We were all human, all from a mother's womb. Yet, girls weren't considered human. They were medicine, meat, pigs, dogs. I was afraid of being a girl. But wasn't that fear also a different kind of tragedy? I had seen it. The divine maiden shedding tears. The little girls crying and begging to live. The soulless child waiting for death. The newborn girl doomed by her gender. I saw it all. I was the ashes in the sacrificial pagoda, the infant flesh on the altar, the corpses piled high behind the abandoned pagoda. I couldn't pretend not to see, couldn't forget second sister's eyes as she was dragged away, couldn't forget the call for mother echoing in the flames. I stumbled along in the darkness again, not knowing how many times I had fallen, my body covered in mud, my mouth full of sand. I looked up. Oh, ahead was a brightly lit house. I saw men going in and out, their faces bearing dirty smiles, vulgar words, the foul stench of wild beasts wearing human faces. I set fire to the pile of grass next to it. Jayu, what are you doing? A voice suddenly sounded behind me. I flinched, spinning around. The red flames behind me were spreading fiercely. Bao stood a distance away, silently watching, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. My mind was in turmoil. I didn't want to explain, nor did I want to think why he was here. At this moment, I didn't care. When people discovered it, I would run away. Everyone ran to fight the fire. I stood from afar, turning my head to look as the fire flared up even more violently than before, painting the sky red. The sight both gratified and terrified me. I dared not look again. I burrowed into the bushes, weaving through the crowd, hiding from the probing eyes of the adult. There's a fire outside. Hurry and help! Don't! So many people here and still can't put it out. Why did it suddenly catch fire? The fire is too big. It's spreading up the mountain. Hurry. Don't linger on soft pleasures. I waited until no one was left in the house before sneaking in. Second sister. I didn't dare to look directly at the person lying there. There was no intact spot on her body. I picked up a piece of cloth, I don't know whose, and covered her. If it weren't for the faint rise and fall of her chest, I would have thought I was too late. Sister, come with me. Can we leave this place? She gently opened her eyes, her breath weak, tears seemingly long since dried up. But when she saw me, a single tear still spilled from the corner of her eye. She gently shook her head. No, I can't go. I bit my lip, forcing myself to swallow my tears. Sister, we can go, as long as you're willing to go. You've been through so much pain. Just a little more. I'll take you away from here. Sister, please, get up. She tilted her head, looking at me, her eyes seeming to ask, why are you begging me? This is my fate. Sister, there's not much time left. They're coming back soon. You hate me, don't you? Then let me take you away. To a place where you'll never have to see me. Never see mother, never see grandmother again. I was afraid she wouldn't go. I was even more afraid that if she didn't go, I would also stop. I led her to crawl out through the dog hole. Fortunately, she was thin enough to fit. And even more fortunately, the village chief's dog was too fat, so it had dug a very large hole. She wore the loose-fitting clothes, took difficult steps, panting. Where are we going? I can't go, Chayu. Last time I hadn't even left the foot of the mountain before I was caught and brought back. It's hard to escape during the day, and even more pitch black at night. There are wild beasts on the mountain, and guards in the village. Wherever we go, it's death. We will go, I said firmly. I led her up the mountain. I showed her the way. I recounted each landmark that marked the escape route. It was the path that I and the other sisters chosen for sacrifice in my previous life had secretly mapped out, but none of us managed to escape. We hadn't even made it halfway up the mountain. I searched my body. I only had a small cloth pouch. Inside were a few loose coins and a safety talisman my mother had tucked into my clothes, telling me to keep it at all costs. I gave it to second sister. I gave her all the peace I had. She looked at me, her eyes, once bright like night stars, always sparkling with anger and resentment. Now, in her gaze, there was only trembling. She asked, Chayu, are you coming with me? I was silent for a moment, then shook my head. I pointed her towards the path ahead, the dark night, the deep forest. But around it fireflies gathered. Each tiny speck quietly flew up, forming a luminous streak, as if lighting the way for her. Sister, just go. This path, we've already opened it for you. The fireflies gathered into a flowing river of stars. I stood from afar, watching her back disappear into the forest. Without looking back, I turned and ran straight towards the villagers. I loudly reported to them I saw second sister. They wouldn't suspect me because I was a boy. I was on their side. My mother cursed second sister for a whole week after she escaped, saying she had brought shame upon the family. Bao was beaten and scolded. The whole village thought he was the one who set the fire. His parents had to bow their heads and apologize everywhere. To appease everyone, they cursed him in front of the villagers and gave him a beating. His cries echoed throughout the village. I just watched. I didn't understand why he didn't say it was me. Just one sentence, and he could have escaped punishment, but he didn't say anything. I saw old Master Chen. The silver-haired figure whispered about in the village as a scare tactic for children. That day was clear, perhaps why he was out wandering. His eyes were bloodshot, with little white, and many red veins, looking no different from a wild beast. When people in the village saw him, no one dared to greet him. They just quietly hurried past. "Why are you staring at him like that?" Bao's voice suddenly echoed behind me, pulling my hand and making me run away. After the fire incident, we hadn't played together again. I was a little surprised that he showed up today. "Jia Bao, why didn't you explain that day?" His face changed from awkward to confused. He scratched his head for a long time, then sighed and plopped down on the ground. "That day, I followed Father out. Maybe because you kept wondering why the divine maiden cried. I also found it strange. That night Mother coaxed me to sleep, but I was big. How could I sleep? I secretly followed Father out and saw it. Ding!" His voice dropped. Even though we were young, we all knew there were things we shouldn't know. I just said, and then suddenly realized Jiabao, even though he was still my playmate now, would also grow up to be a man, just like those men that night, smoking and laughing obscenely, talking as if women were mere objects. Jiabao bowed his head for a long time without speaking. Suddenly, he looked up and whispered, "But I think that's wrong." I looked up. "You once said your sister was a person, not a dog, not a pig. You said eating children's flesh is wrong because little girls are also people." At that time, I didn't understand. But later, when I went to school, I read in books that it was written completely differently from what my parents said. Old Master Chen eats people. Everyone is scared. But some women eat the very children they give birth to. Isn't that more terrifying? The book Bao Ho Chu says that even tigers don't eat their own cubs. Are humans more terrifying than tigers? Jiabao said, tears falling. Perhaps because he couldn't bear the shock of the real world and the taught world being two different things. I want to learn to read. Jiabao, will you teach me? Yes, he nodded, wiped his tears, picked up a dry branch, and began to write on the ground, each stroke wobbly. Learning to read is hard, Jiayu. Then are you giving up school? No. I want to understand. During dinner, I accidentally blurted out, Mother, today I saw old Master Chen looking at me. The whole family stopped their chopsticks. All eyes immediately focused on me. Grandmother hugged me tightly, mumbling, my child, asking me how he looked. Everyone knew old Master Chen was in the village today. I said I was playing near the road. He walked past and stared. Luckily, Bao pulled me away. Immediately, the whole family's expressions changed. Old Master Chen eats people. If he looked at someone, wasn't it like a wild beast choosing its prey? A few days later, old Master Chen came down to the village again. This time, I was strolling with Mother. Mother was chatting with some neighbors. Just as we were about to head home, old Master Chen turned onto the path we were on. Just moments before, the women were talking and laughing loudly. Now everyone held their breath, like chickens waiting to be slaughtered. The sound of children playing also suddenly quieted. I pretended to be innocent, clutching my clay toy, and ran towards Mother. As I passed old Master Chen, I deliberately bumped lightly into him. He turned and stared at me. I could clearly feel his burning gaze piercing my back. Mother froze for a second, then rushed to hug me tightly. So tight, I couldn't move. I struggled and whined as usual. But this time, Mother was not gentle as usual. Even though she was just skin and bones, her embrace was like steel. I couldn't see anything, but the sound of Mother's heart beating like a war drum echoed from her chest. I heard it clearly. I heard it clearly. I'm not easy anymore. Let's go home, my child. For a few days after that, I wasn't allowed to leave the house. Mother even insisted on accompanying me to the toilet. I didn't know how terrifying old Master Chen's gaze was that day, but from how anxious, sleepless, and frantically scared Mother was, I felt it. I had grown several years older. I knew how to write, how to draw, and I knew where old Master Chen lived. I snuck out of the house. No one stopped me on the way. His door was wide open. He probably thought his terrifying reputation was enough to keep anyone in the village from daring to enter. He wasn't home. The weather was nice lately. He often wandered the streets. Inside, I saw countless women's belongings, hairpins, handkerchiefs, dress hems, all faintly smelling of death. For a fleeting moment, I thought I recognized a few items similar to elder sisters, but too much time had passed. I wasn't sure. I silently left a single shoe. I felt that I shouldn't continue to live, at least not with this privileged status. My current life was too smooth, so beautiful, that sometimes my resolve wavered, making me think things were meant to be this way. I gradually forgot. The first thing to fade was the pain. I remembered grabbing clothes, washing dishes in winter, but forgot the feeling of ice cutting my hands. Remembered being beaten until my skin tore for forgetting to boil an extra egg for my brother. But forgot why I cried until I fainted. Remembered kneeling and begging for a way to live, my head hitting the ground until it bled, but forgot what I begged for. Remembered the fire consuming my body. Remembered the screams of my friends. Remembered the still incinerated bodies beneath my feet. But I was forgetting how hot the fire was, how putrid the blood. Sometimes I even wondered, were eggs really so hard to come by? Was the river water really that cold in winter? Was a way to live truly that difficult? I must not forget. I feared my future self would deny my past. Feared that I, growing up, would turn into the sword that stabbed the child who was once burned. I hid in the children's burial pagoda. The space was cramped. I had to curl up. Sunlight occasionally streamed through the cracks in the bricks, shining on my face. Sleepiness crept in. Consciousness gradually faded, until my breathing also stopped. The school had no pink dresses. The children's pagoda didn't bury boys' bones. A male body, a female fate. Other than working in the fields, he hadn't seen his son for an entire afternoon. Aunt Fu Lai felt her gut churning like fire. Arriving home, she called everywhere, Jiayu. Jiayu, calling repeatedly, she received no answer. She searched every room, thinking her son was sulking and hiding, but still found no trace. Panicked, she ran out the door, ran all over the village, then down to the foot of the mountain where her son often played, shouting. No one answered. Aunt Fu Lai cried and returned home. As soon as she stepped through the gate, her husband pointed at her and cursed her furiously. If not for others holding him back, he would have raised his hand to hit his wife. How do you watch over a child, saying that He threw back a single sentence. "Go find him," then frantically ran off, as if he had always cared for his child a great deal. On the first day, the whole family spread out to search. No one slept a wink when night fell. On the second day, villagers were mobilized to search the mountain, saying he might have fallen into a beast pit. Digging all over the mountainside yielded no results. On the third day, moving to the next village, Aunt Fulai and her mother-in-law nearly turned over an entire hill, their feet blistered and bleeding, but found no sign of the boy. Did he go to another village? Or was he caught by a wild beast or swept away by the river? Aunt Fulai screamed at the thought, wanting to fight anyone who dared to say such a thing. On the fourth and fifth day, her father-in-law was the first to give up, feigning weakness. Her husband was the second to give up, saying, "I'll wait for him at home." It was unclear how many days had passed. Aunt Fulai was visibly thinner, her hair disheveled, her cheeks sunken and pale, her eyes hazy, like someone who hadn't slept for nights. She suddenly remembered someone, old Master Chen. Before the incident, her son had said old Master Chen kept staring at him. That day, she herself had seen old Master Chen's eyes fixed on the child. That old man eats people. He especially likes the flesh of women and children. What if that day I wasn't home and he secretly snuck in and ate my son? Aunt Fulai went crazy, running all over the village, screaming loudly, "Old Master Chen ate my son." She grabbed the village chief's hand, demanding he get justice. Everyone in the village knew that the Fulai family's only son had disappeared without a trace. Some even said he was probably taken by mountain spirits. Oh, when they heard her wailing, old Master Chen's name surfaced in everyone's minds as an obvious answer. Oh, right, why did the boy suddenly disappear? If old Master Chen caught him and brought him home to eat, you wouldn't find his corpse even if you searched the heavens. I think I saw that old man wandering around that day. Maybe on his way back, he saw the child and carried him home. I also saw how he looked at other people's children, like a hungry dog seeing raw meat. The Fulai family only has one son. Now that he's gone, it's like losing half their life. Well, just try to have another child. Eat more children's soup. Didn't my family also do that and manage to have another? The village chief trembled as Aunt Fulai dragged him all the way to old Master Chen's house. A few curious villagers also tagged along to see the spectacle. Aunt Fulai only wanted to go inside and see clearly, but she didn't dare to go alone. Her husband and mother-in-law both flatly refused, saying, "Who dares to cross old Master Chen?" So she had no choice but to roll around and wail, forcing everyone to accompany her. The village chief stood outside and called a few times. Receiving no answer, he said, "He's probably not home. Well, we'll come another time." In truth, he was afraid, because years ago he himself had seen old Master Chen eat his own wife. Back home, he suffered from a high fever for several days. Aunt Fulai shrieked, "No, I have to go in." Everyone stood outside, craning their necks to look in, no one daring to step forward. She rushed straight into the house alone. The space was utterly silent. Not a sound. Everyone began to grow anxious. "Ni! Ti! Ai!" A piercing scream shattered the air. making everyone's faces turn pale. Oh no, he's been caught and eaten alive, hasn't he? But inside, there was no old Master Chen, no bloody scene as they imagined. There were only Aunt Fu Lai standing there, holding a small shoe, her son's shoe. Clear evidence. The boy must have been eaten by old Master Chen. Her eyes burned red, her face contorted as she screamed, "Village chief, you must do justice for me." The village chief remained silent. Onlookers nearby started advising, "Just let it go. Consider it bad luck. You can have another child. You still have to live. My daughter-in-law is pregnant now. If it's a girl, I'll give her to you to cook soup." Aunt Fu Lai refused to give up. She saw that they were all good at talking because the dead child wasn't theirs. Their eyes looked at her with both pity and relief. In that moment, an unprecedented fire of hatred erupted in her heart. Hatred for old Master Chen, who ate her son. Hatred for her husband, who only knew how to gamble and wouldn't watch their child. Hatred for her father-in-law, who lay in bed smoking opium, caring for no one's life or death. Hatred for the cowardly village chief. And hatred for the entire village that only knew how to spectate. Old Master Chen returned home and saw the crowd gathered outside his gate. He narrowed his bloodshot, triangular eyes, the corners of his mouth curling up to reveal sparse, foul-smelling teeth. Before he could even open his mouth, Aunt Fu Lai screamed, "You ate my son! You beast in human skin!" The villagers quickly restrained her, covering her mouth and pulling her back. Everyone furtively observed old Master Chen, afraid he would get angry. After all, this was a man-eater. Sobbing sounds still escaped through their hands. Tears of helplessness streaked across her gaunt, weary face. Her eyes were blood-red, meeting old Master Chen's equally red eyes. Two animalistic gazes clashed in the thick air. The village chief, trembling, asked if old Master Chen had eaten the village child. Years ago, they had made a pact. He would be given a house, land, and free food in exchange for not eating people from the village. He broke his word. Actually, old Master Chen couldn't even remember if he had eaten any child as accused. But whether he remembered or not, he could still deny it. What was a single shoe? He had a habit of keeping souvenirs after eating. He insisted I just picked it up. No one dared to do anything to him. Aunt Fu Lai was tightly bound and dragged back. Along the way, villagers eagerly advised, "Just let it go. Have another child. You still have to live." They advised her, but in their eyes flickered a light of fortune, for they were not the victims. The fire of hatred in Aunt Fu Lai's heart burned even more fiercely. Hatred for old Master Chen, hatred for her gambling husband, hatred for her opium-smoking father-in-law, hatred for the timid village chief, and hatred for all the neighbors who only knew how to watch the fun. In June 2020, police suddenly appeared in the mountain village. The village chief was sweating profusely, the villagers restless. Returning from afar, Tuo stood amidst the scene, both familiar and strange, bewildered, imagining herself still a child running freely through the cornfields. Police accompanied her, as did journalists. She herself had spent years bringing this horrifying story to the outside world. And now, she led people back to investigate. In her memories, there was always the image of a chubby little brother. She wondered what the brother who once helped her escape looked like now. Tu-An followed her memories back to her old house. Now, desolate. Grandparents were gone. Mother had gone insane. Father remarried. My brother died, Aunt Fulai recounted, eaten by old Master Chen. Tu-An's mother went completely mad. After that, old Master Chen acquired a taste for it, continuing to abduct many others. The villagers, enraged, stormed in and killed the old man. He still cried, "I didn't eat them." But who believed him? Only then did they realize that the person they had feared so much for so long was just a frail body. Tu-An's mother wandered the mountains looking for her son, forever holding the pair of children's shoes she had picked up in old Master Chen's house. Aunt Fu Lai's eyes welled up as she recounted this. And once at odds, now mentioning it brought only tears of sorrow. When the police and reporters saw the densely packed children's burial pagodas and the sacrificial altar in the center of the village, they understood that Tu-An's words were not exaggerated. Before the tiny living tombs, everyone fell silent. In one pagoda, they found a lone skeleton. Forensics said it was the bones of a boy, astonishing everyone. People speculated that perhaps the boy had playfully climbed in, gotten stuck, and starved to death inside. They also found a small notebook with childish, wobbly handwriting, containing both phonetic transcriptions and drawings, but meticulously documenting the crimes in this village, almost entirely matching Tu-An's account. The last page read, "I am a girl.